Hey you all, I got up early this morning and cranked out a couple of stories. And I just got to thinking as I was doing it, what a nice bunch of people watch these videos, and I appreciate you so much. So if you're a grill out on the lawn, Walmart shopping, even a Target shopper, we take those. Firework loving, flip-flop wearing, beer huggy using, hard working blue collar, even white collar wearing, red-blooded American, Australian, South African, New Zealander, British, Irish, Scot, German, Swede, Japanese, Korean, Russian, and any other nation who watches these videos and you like good stories, you have found your people. It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, pretty, ugly, rich, poor, white, black, brown, gay, straight, old, young. No special privileges here. Nobody is a favorite. Everybody is special, and all the stories are good. In a culture where people almost hate each other just because they cast a vote for a certain president or the other, this is a peaceful place to come and rest and listen to a good story and let your mind drift away for 15 minutes and just have a good time. And I love you for listening, and I've got 2 stories today. All right, here we go. All right, we got 2 good stories today. Just close your eyes, listen to the stories, and put yourself in these guys' shoes, and I think you will be quite impressed and probably a little bit scared. This story takes place in North Carolina, and it was emailed in by Bill. He writes, back in 1967, when I was 13 or so, my family took a trip to Fontana Lake State Park in North Carolina. It's a man-made reservoir and was built behind a massive dam. It was produced during the time of the Tennessee Valley Authority project in the 1930s to create power in the southern states, bringing them modern conveniences and to create Depression-era work for the unemployed. Early one morning, I went on a small trip alone with my dad, an avid fisherman. My dad found a very secluded area to fish. Very shortly after he started fishing, I grew bored. Near the fishing area was an overgrown asphalt highway. Saplings and other plants had sprouted up between the cracks in the highway. I remember it still had yellow lines painted in the asphalt. It's amazing how tenacious Mother Nature is once man has abandoned an area. I'm sure that 20 years after my visit that the road was completely gone. I took a walk down the road for about a mile or so. The road stopped abruptly in front of some thick woods. At first I smelled it. It was a wet dog wrapped in rotten fish and feces smell. I thought there was a corpse nearby. Then my eyes focused on the woods in front of me, and that's when I saw it. It stood twice my height, bulked up and heavy. It had a near-human face covered partially with hair. The eyes were large and man-like. The head was small in comparison to the creature's height and mass. Long, scraggly, brownish, black, human-like hair covered its body. It had light brown colored streaks through the hair. I stood there for a long time, taking in the sight and the details. These details have never left me even throughout the years. Suddenly, the creature raised its right arm by the elbow and gave out a blood-curdling scream. That's when I realized that I was looking at something that could easily kill me. Fear overwhelmed me. I was frozen in place. I was afraid it would try to kill me, so I took off running as it started throwing stones at me. Then, for a short time, the creature just loped behind me at a leisurely pace, staying about 100 feet away while I was running frantically and looking over my shoulder. Now, in my mind's eye, it seemed like it was right on my tail. But knowing how the fear affects certain memory details, I can't say for sure. All I remember about running was that I was scared witless. Somewhere down the road, it disappeared, but I kept going like an Olympic runner. I reached the area where my dad was fishing. I was out of breath but screaming hysterically by this time. My father took one look at my face and without a word threw everything into the car and we took off lickety-split. I told him what I saw, and for some reason, my dad, who never believed a word I said, believed me. I suppose it's because I was really scared and crying. All the way down the long road to a large intersection, I was afraid the creature was going to jump out after us. When we arrived at our cabin, my mother had the radio on, and there was an announcement that people might be wary because the, quote, man of the lake had been sighted about 5 times. The announcer said it while laughing, but I wasn't laughing. My mother was a logical woman not given to fantasy. She grilled me for what seemed like an hour until she was satisfied that what I said was true. She tried to convince me that I saw a bear. I told her that bears don't run for long distances on their hind feet. Finally, my dad admitted that he too had smelled something funny in the woods. So it was decided that I did not have a puberty-induced hallucination. From that point on, I didn't sleep well in the cabin. I was afraid my friend had caught my scent and was looking for me. If I did sleep, I had horrendous dreams of being caught, having my back broken, and eaten alive. It wasn't until we were on the way out of the park that I was able to fall asleep in the car. Skeptics might say that I thought I saw something, or that I have embellished the story with time, or that I am a bold-faced liar. My answer is an emphatic no. In fact, I wish on them to have the same recurring nightmares that I have today. There are things or situations in your life that you can remember as it were yesterday, and this is one of those cases for me. Bill, you nailed it right there at the end, brother. I don't know how many of these stories we get that how adamant people are that they know exactly what they saw. And this thing was chasing you. It was chasing you. Maybe not chasing you, but it was just keeping a distance with you and maybe having fun with you. Or maybe it was a mean one and it was wanting to run you down and eat you and break your back, like you said. But I'm glad you got away, and I'm glad you've adjusted very well through the years. That is a scary story, especially for a kid. I think it's an awesome story. Thank you, Bill, for sending that in. Another North Carolina encounter. This next story was sent to me by Darren Lindsay. Darren has a YouTube channel called Sasquatch Truth BDRP North Texas Researcher. He's got a really cool video that he put out recently called Gut Check. They'll be my end screen, so no need to look in the description. They'll just be thrown up here at the end. But Darren has got a pretty cool little channel. He offers a lot of good commentary and really some pretty good videos. And this video that I'm talking about, he catches some eyes in the middle of the day. You need to see it. It's pretty good. But I enjoyed reading his story, and it's again, if you just kind of drift off into the story, you might get a little shiver. Here's Darren's story. My name is Darren. I'm born and raised a Texas boy. I'm now a 50-year-old man. Boy, how time flies. This whole Bigfoot thing started with me growing up in a hunting family. My father had me in a tree stand by the age of 9. We hunted all over the state in some of the best country that Texas has to offer, and on a handful of these deer leases, you would run into these old boys that would not hunt certain parts of the lease. Being a new guy on a deer lease, you get the breakdown of where everybody else hunts. You're usually taking somebody else's spot, so you hunt where they did, but not all of the land on every lease in North Texas is hunted. There are places that hunters will not go. On a few occasions, I would get statements like, well, you can go down there if you want to, or we don't go in there, it's full of boogers. Let me stop here. If you don't know, if you're new to the Bigfoot genre, another name for Bigfoot or Sasquatch in the southern states is boogers. there's a history to that. I'm not really sure I'm familiar with what it is. So when you hear boogers through these stories, you'll know that he's referring to a Bigfoot. At that time, I had no idea what a booger or a Bigfoot was. I hadn't seen one. I didn't even have a clue what to make of this, so I thought about everything scary, ugly, and bad, and that must be what a booger is. And it never failed. If there were places that no one would hunt, that's where my daddy would drag me, and that's where we would hunt. I remember his words clearly. You know we're going down in there, don't you? Down in that place, right? And I would always respond, yep. More than a few times we would hear squalls and noises, and his eyes would get big, and he would whisper to me, that's one of them boogers. If I showed concern, he would always remind me that he'd been doing this for a long time, and they had never bothered him. Then my grandfather would say, those boogers don't want you. You ain't got nothing they want. And that would be the end of that. On one occasion in particular, I was probably about 9 or 10, and the tree stand that he had put me in was made for a big man, so he had to help me get up the steps. And then he walked off to his stand, and when it got dark, and I mean good and dark, he would start back and pick me up along the way. This time it was an evening hunt. He got me in the stand and started off towards his own. And I listened to his footsteps as they faded off in the distance. But this time, as they faded off, not 5 minutes had gone by, he started coming back and stopped. I thought he either forgot something or maybe saw a deer. Then he started to move towards my right, just out of my sight, through the trees, and stop every now and then. I was certain that it was him because the footsteps were the same as when he walked off. This went on for 45 minutes. Then I just didn't hear it anymore. I figured he made his way back to his stand. After the hunt and his return, I questioned him. Why did you come back, Dad? He said, what do you mean? I said, I heard you walk back to the stand and you circled around me. He said, that wasn't me, and then he laughed. In grade school, I loved free time in the library and would hit all the Bigfoot and monster books. Then when I got older, I found girls and cars. Bigfoot kind of took a back seat. About 4 years ago, I stumbled on Bigfoot investigators with the YouTube channels, and I was fascinated that people actually still look for Bigfoot. I was snake bit. I couldn't get enough, so I made my own channel. It's a small channel. I just made it to 1,000 subscribers yesterday, and today I pulled it up. I had lost one. Now I'm back to 999 once again. But you know, even without YouTube, I would still keep filming because I know they're out there. I have seen them. I'll give you my first sighting and leave the others for maybe another time. Not to give too much away, but this is some very old lake bottom land. One of the largest sites of the Clovis Indians in the United States. I pay $70 for a park pass each year. My normal hike is 4.5 to 5 miles in one way, and then I break the trail and I bushwhack. I was still new at this at the time. This particular time when I broke trail, I was not prepared. My camera wasn't on, of course, and I wasn't more than a few steps off the trail when something shot out from behind a tree. The speed and the instant acceleration was shocking. If you've ever hunted pheasants or quail, you know how they can blow up on you. It was that fast, and I was close enough to see the bristling hair on its back, like if a dog gets mad or a boar hog bristles up. I could clearly see the black hair standing up on its back. This thing was not happy. I am 5'10", and it was a foot taller than me, even as it was hunkered over. We have a big hog problem here. There are a ton of them, and they get really big. Hogs are my biggest worry in these woods. When it exploded, I couldn't see its bottom half, and it was sort of bent over, kind of like it was hunchbacked. I thought, if it's a hog, it's got to be a big one. I got myself together and made my way to where I last saw the animal. When this thing took off, I should have heard it making its way through some really dense brush. but I heard nothing after the first explosion. Everything went silent. I knew it could not have gone far, and my instincts told me that it was probably only 20 or 30 yards into the brush, but that I just couldn't see it. I turned on my camera and I made my way to where I last saw the beast. And then I smelled it. Everyone has a description, and I love all the variants. You know those long car trips you used to take as a kid, and every now and then you would hit one of those really bad truck stop bathrooms? It smelled like a truck stop bathroom. It had a heavy urine smell. I think he had to have peed right where I was standing because the odor was that strong. I did shoot a video of the area. I panned it slowly and methodically. I later showed people my video, and someone said they could see something in the shadows that looked as though it had a brow ridge. I had a hard time seeing it myself, but that's not unusual. One of the many things I've learned is to be prepared when I break trail, because I promise you, these things are following you. I try to confuse them and gain an advantage, to do the unpredictable. I want the beast to think that I'm a crazy human, and they will always be wondering what I'm going to do next. Anyway, I think I had caught this one off guard. The flooding this year in North Texas has been horrible, and you know what that does to bottomland. It's just now drying up enough for me to get back in there. But I'm in there every chance I get, and I will be posting more videos on my channel. Oh, and by the way, there's a canine variety of this creature out there. Some use the word dogman. That's another suitcase to unpack for another time. God bless, and thanks for using my story. Signed, Darren. Darren, man, I'm just speechless after this story. I've not personally met you, and I don't know much about you, but I've watched a few of your videos, and I enjoy them. And you all know I'm not much into the research thing, but I like to hang around real, authentic dudes. I like to hang around just normal people. You know, Darren seems to be one of those kind of guys. And I feel like one day we're going to get an image or a video or a body, or one is going to be captured, and it's going to put all the mystery to rest. All right, that's going to do it for this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.